have broken from reality, a psychotic nation. Ignorance with a pretense of knowledge replacing wisdom. Money does not grow on trees, nor does prosperity come from a government printing press or escalating deficits. We're now in the midst of unlimited spending of the people's money, exorbitant taxation, deficits of trillions of dollars spent on a failed welfare warfare system, an epidemic of cronyism, unlimited supplies of paper money equated with wealth, a central bank that deliberately destroys the value of the currency in secrecy, without restraint, without nary a whimper.
Welcome to the America 20XY Week in Review. Today is Sunday, January 17th, 2010. I am your host, Andrew Steele. Well, our first story is from Raw Story on January the 14th, written by Daniel Tenser. Obama staffer wants cognitive infiltration of 9/11 conspiracy groups. In a 2008 academic paper, President Barack Obama's appointee to head the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs advocated, quote-unquote, cognitive infiltration of groups that advocate conspiracy theories like the one surrounding 9/11. Cass Sunstein, a Harvard law professor, co-wrote an academic article entitled Conspiracy Theories, Causes and Cures, in which he argued that the government should stealthily infiltrate groups that pose alternative theories on historical events via chat rooms, online social networks, or even real space groups, and attempt to undermine those groups. As head of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, Sunstein is in charge of overseeing policies relating to privacy, information quality, and statistical programs, according to the White House website. Sunstein, whose article focuses largely on 9/11 conspiracy theories, suggests that the government enlist non-governmental officials in the effort to rebut the theories. It might ensure that credible independent experts offer the rebuttal rather than government officials themselves. There is a trade-off between credibility and control, however. The price of credibility is that the government cannot be seen to control the independent experts. Sunstein argued that government might undertake legal tactics for breaking up the tight cognitive clusters of extremist theories. He suggested that government agents and their allies might enter chat rooms, online social networks, or even real space groups and attempt to undermine percolating conspiracy theories by raising doubts about their factual premises, causal logic, or implications for political action. We expect such tactics from undercover cops or FBI, Estrin writes at Rag blog, expressing surprises that a high-level presidential advisor would support such a strategy. Estrin notes that Sunstein advocates in his article for the infiltration of extremist groups so that it undermines the group's confidence to the extent that new recruits will be suspect and participants in the group's virtual networks will doubt each other's bona fides. And then we have this article from Prison Planet titled Obama Information Czar Outlined Plan for Government to Infiltrate Conspiracy Groups, written January 14th by Paul Joseph Watson. And they reiterate a lot of what the Raw Story article says, and we'll skip down to the middle. It says, as we have often warned, chat rooms, social networks, and particularly article comment sections are routinely gamed by trolls, many of whom pose as numerous different people in order to create a fake consensus, who attempt to debunk whatever information is being discussed, no matter how credible and well documented. In 2006, CENTCOM, the United States Central Command, announced that a team of employees would be hired to engage bloggers who are posting inaccurate or untrue information, as well as bloggers who are posting incomplete information about the so-called War on Terror. In May of 2008, it was revealed that the Pentagon was expanding information operations on the Internet by setting up fake foreign news websites designed to look like independent media sources, but in reality carrying direct military propaganda. Countries like Israel have also admitted to creating an army of online trolls whose job it is to infiltrate anti-war websites and act as apologists for the Zionist state's war crimes. In January last year, the U.S. Air Force announced a counterblog response plan aimed at fielding and reacting to material from bloggers who have negative opinions about the U.S. government and the Air Force. The plan created by the public affairs arm of the Air Force includes a detailed 12-point counterblogging flowchart that dictates how officers should tackle what are described as trolls, raggers, and misguided online writers. New revelations highlight the fact that Obama administration is deliberately targeting conspiracy groups as part of a counterintel COINTELPRO, style effort to silence what have become the government's most vociferous and influential critics. So the government's very concerned about the so-called conspiracy theorists on the internet. Now, if it's all about just confronting misinformed bloggers or people who don't have all the information with correct information, why are they so clandestine about it? Why do they have to pose as different people? You know, they're given enough respect by the mainstream media as so-called experts that their opinions are taken as gospel already. Why do they need to do this? Why do they need to counter free speech on the internet and do it in such a sneaky fashion? Now we have an article from the London Telegraph on January the 17th by Fiona Govin. FBI admits Spanish politician was model for high-tech Osama bin Laden photo fit. The U.S. State Department was forced to withdraw the mocked-up photo image circulated around the world last week after the discovery that it was not quite as technically sophisticated as the FBI had originally claimed. The digitally altered image of an older and graying bin Laden was meant to show how the world's most wanted terrorist might now look without his trademark turban and long beard. It was released in a renewed effort to locate him more than 8 years after the September 11th attack, which he ordered and directed. But it created an unexpected stir in Madrid when a Spanish MP recognized strong elements of himself in the image and complained to the U.S. Gaspar Llamazares, 52, a member of Spain's Communist Party and former leader of the United Left coalition in Parliament, said his forehead, hair, and jawline had been cut and pasted from an old campaign photograph. The FBI claimed to have used cutting-edge technology to reproduce new images of 18 of the most wanted terrorist suspects for the State Department's Rewards for Justice website. Now, I want you to look at this picture. Now, we're going to have some juxtaposed of Osama bin Laden and this guy, and I don't see how they can make a jump from the way Osama actually looks in real footage of him and this guy. You know, it's like comparing Dick York and Dick Sargent, you know, the different Darren Stevens on Bewitched. But that's pretty much par for the course, because if you look at other photographs that have been released that are supposedly of Osama bin Laden over the past decade, those photos don't necessarily match up either. Now we have an article from the World Socialist website on January 14th, written by Jerry White. Afghans shot down while protesting U.S. occupation. At least 8 protesters were killed and 13 wounded in the southern Afghanistan town of Garzmir Wednesday when security forces fired on a demonstration of several thousand people protesting against the U.S. military. Protesters blamed the deaths on Afghan intelligence agents backed up by U.S. soldiers. Demonstrators gathered in the central bazaar in response to reports that U.S. soldiers had desecrated the Quran and abused Afghan women during a raid at a nearby village 2 nights before. Protesters shouting "Death to America" and "Death to Kamil Khan," the deputy police chief of Helmand province, overturned cars, set fire to a school, and attacked the local headquarters of the National Directorate of Security. The hated Afghan intelligence services, which works closely with U.S. occupation forces. An intelligence officer and 2 policemen were reportedly killed in the clash. Kamil Khan claimed NDS officers shot the protesters after the crowd began throwing rocks at them and that no American forces were involved. U.S. officials also denied that they had fired on protesters, although they said they had fired on and killed a Taliban sniper, who they claimed was firing on a nearby U.S. base, Forward Operating Base Delhi, a few hundred yards away during the protest. And then we're going to skip down a little bit, and it says, on Tuesday, another 16 people were killed in a pair of Hellfire missile strikes launched by unmanned drones, one in Nowzad, the other in Nad Ali district. While attacks by unmanned aircraft in Pakistan have been publicized, little has been said about similar CIA-directed attacks in Afghanistan until this one. As usual, the U.S. military claimed all of the dead were suspected insurgents.